I'm here. So listen, you know, I'm on the set shooting, and I'm hoping that my cell phone holds out here. If not, I'll have to call you back from another number, okay?
Okay. I'm so appreciative of your call. Thank you so much. This means a great deal to us to have you on the show.
Oh, too bad. It's my pleasure, and they were great here. They've sprung me for 20 minutes, guys, but I don't know if my cell will hold out that long, so...
Okay, we'll get right to it. Tell me about that summer, the time when Cujo came to you. Obviously, did it come to you, or did you? How did that happen for you?
Actually, Dan Blatt. I had done the howling for Dan Blatt. He was the producer on it, and also on Cujo. And so when Cujo came along, Dan Blatt brought it to me, and to Chris, who was my husband at the time, because we had both done the howling for him.
Right.
And it was one of the biggest gifts that was ever brought to me, I'll tell you.
It really is, and you know, I rewatched it this weekend, as I've said. It's been many years since I've seen it, but it still works just as well as the first time I saw it. It's terrifying and moving, and I had forgotten somehow about the opening half hour, which is a lot of the family story, and I was so completely taken by that. And I'm wondering, what do you feel that this backstory, that opening of this film, does for the picture? Why it's so essential?
Well, I think, as opposed to most what they're calling horror films these days, it gives you an opportunity to care about and invest in the characters that are going to be at stake here.
Right.
And, you know, the whole B story of what's going on with the marriage kind of is a metaphor of the energetic and subtle violence that's going on, you know, with the dog and that whole A story part. So I think, for me, Cujo works on a lot of different levels, and I, of course, saw. I even back then was dealing with energy and studying energy, and it was a big commentary for me about fear and how people played out fear and how they used their guilt to really create the fear in their lives. And I was incredibly lucky to have Danny Pintaro play that little boy too.
Yeah, tell me about that relationship, and tell me about having protecting a child from that kind of. I mean, it's a very obviously it's make believe, but it had to have been a very intense experience.
Well, yeah, it was, and you know, Danny was only 4 at the time, and 4-year-olds like Drew in E.T. Literally, oftentimes cannot tell the difference between reality and fantasy. And so with both of them, I would go, all right, now, you know, this is just pretend. You know, the dog isn't really going to hurt us. You know, Carl, you know, has trained the dogs really well, and this is just pretend, this is make-believe. And then after every shot or scene like that, I would go, so Danny, was that fun to play pretend? Because we know that wasn't real. Yeah, I don't know. That's probably why I play so many damn mothers, you know, because I so empathize and worry about the kids and the trauma of what they're going through, you know.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. He was amazing. He was just amazing to work with, and just totally together. He had it. He knew exactly what he was doing.
I'm fascinated by, and obviously you teach acting, and I'm fascinated, especially in this genre of film, how you maintain that kind of state. It's such an emotionally wrought state of being that you're called upon to be in. How do you do that?
You know, it's just a really focused refinement of energy. And, you know, you have to be in shape. You have to keep yourself in shape. And you do have to kind of live really in that semi-state during the day while you're shooting it. I mean, Cujo by far is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I was treated for exhaustion for weeks afterwards. because I don't think the viewer understands that when an actor goes through an emotional state like that, your body goes through all of the chemical changes that it does if you are really in fight or flight. And so, your adrenaline pumps out and everything goes into overdrive. And if you look at Cujo, every scene in Cujo, we probably shot 8 to 10, 15 times because the dog and the 4-year-old had to both work in the same scene, and Dee had to work whether they worked or not, So it was taxing. It was physically and emotionally taxing, and I wouldn't have changed that experience for anything.
It is. Trust me. I'm honest when I say this. I find it a terrific performance. Just a time vault performance. I love you in this film.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me about the way it was shot. Was it shot in continuity at all?
Yes, pretty much, because not only for Danny but for the dogs. And as strange as that may seem, there were 5 dogs, all of them incredibly, impeccably trained to go after different toys. And for all of you animal lovers out there, believe me, the dogs were better taken care of than I was. And we were freezing most of the time. It was November, December in Northern California, and it was raining and really cold. They had to build a heater in the front of that Pinto for us because it was so cold in there.
Oh, wow.
Which is also a testament to Jan de Bont's cinematography and Louis Teague's direction and the performances, because people often say to me, "Oh my God, did you just die of the heat?" And I'm going, "No, we were freezing doing the whole thing." So.
Yeah, and in terms of the movie's ending, I know that the book ended differently. Was there ever any question how you were going to end the movie?
In the beginning there was a question, and I said, "Look, guys, at least half the people that will come to see this movie have never read the book."
Right.
And I just felt incredibly strongly that the child could not. I really fought for it, and Dan ultimately agreed with me. And then when the film came out, the response was, "Thank God you didn't kill the kid at the end," because that, I guess, is the most hate mail he ever got.
Yeah, I would imagine, and plus it makes sense too, just because it's a cathartic experience, and you're left with a sense of hope that this family will only be stronger after this point.
Oh yeah, you can't ask a movie audience to go through 2 hours of that emotional trauma with no payoff. I didn't think, and I was pretty adamant that if I was going to be involved, it needed to have a different ending.
But do
Absolutely.
you know what? Sorry, this is Aaron. I'm a home entertainment editor. Do
Hi.
you know? Howdy. Does anyone know what Mr. King's response was to the film?
Well, that came from Mr. King. Yeah, thank God you didn't kill the kid, because I never got more hate mail. I never got more hate mail in my life than when I did that at the end of that book.
Because I understand from folklore, he doesn't even remember writing that book. That's like the one book that he's kind of blocked out of his memory.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I can't comment on that.
Movies. You can't kill a kid. I think the key phrase there is part of folklore. But I know he remembered it enough to take a first pass at the script. So.
I know you're pressed for time because you're on set. I want to ask you about 2 more things before you leave. And one of the things is we've been speaking off and on with a director of yours. His name is Hal Masonberg. And yeah, you were in a film of his called The Plague, and we've been discussing back and forth about what the studio has done with his film and basically taken it away from him. Tell me, in your view, what is missing from the cut that's out there now that that people are missing from the director's cut?
You know, and I'm doing this because I'm not to be involved so much in the political battle here, but in the creative commentary. I loved this original script of Hal's because it made an enormous amount of commentary for me about the human tragedy and the human existence, and how our fear literally is the disease that was the plague, and how our if we can conquer our fear and come together in communionship and love, then we can literally heal the world from this disease. And it was a secondary part, but a very, very core part of the script, and it's all been taken out. It just lifted the picture into a whole other genre for me, as opposed to a horror film.
Yeah,
and,
having seen the director's cut, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I had a real strong reaction to the director's cut as well. I wanted to ask you also. You have a website. It's called officialdeewallace.com, and on it your fans can review your movie career and see what's upcoming for you. But you also have a section there about another passion of yours, which is healing. And I want to know what that entails, and as an actress, how that kind of concept makes you stronger as an actress and a human being.
Oh, well, you know, the two things are so incredibly tied because they're all about energy, and everything in the world is energy. My whole acting technique is based on energy and channeling really the purity of a character through my instrument. And quite frankly, I think that's what we're all striving to do in our lives right now, is to drop the BS and drop our stories that aren't serving us anymore, and open up our energy to lifting ourselves to the greatest human beings we can be. And many of us do that through our creative, outlets, but life in general should be creative, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think so, yeah.
My book, Conscious Creation, and all of my healing work and seminars that I teach is really about finding those blockages and those beliefs and those small places that are woven together in the spider web of our energy that are not allowing us to be the happiest, most joyful people we can be. Because really that's the only reason we're here. We're not here to do great things, and we're not, here to change the world. We're here to be expressions of joy and happiness. And we've just all been really terribly misled about, what that entails in this life. And people oftentimes say to me, how can you justify doing a horror film and healing people? And I go, well, I'm in my joy when I'm an actor. I'm in my joy when I do these films. People come see these films, and they get to face fears that in their real life they would never allow themselves to face in a safe place. And if you read any of the psychological breakdowns of Disney and the Disney films for children, the things that they're always gravitate to are the scary parts, the bad queen in Sleeping Beauty and, Ursula and the Little Mermaid, because it allows them to venture into that place where they can explore their fears and conquer them and know that they're not a part of who they are, that they're an outside fear that they have control over. And I really don't see a dichotomy or a split. I see a perfect parallel to all of it, that we're just, it's time for us to all let our fear go. I say in my book that I think the biggest fear we have is losing our fear, because when we have no fear, and we don't have to keep control over everything, and we get to lose our stories. And who are we without our stories? Well, we're just pure energy, and pure energy can decide to be happy and joyful.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more, and I was so moved to read some of these sections of your website about healing. And I would highly recommend all of our listeners out there, officialdeewallace.com is your website, and you have a book. Has the book been released yet?
It will be released in August, and you can find all about it, exactly the dates. As soon as I get them, I know it's going to be ready in August. And my online acting classes are up on my website. I'm really excited about those. Again, dealing with everything I've ever brought to the screen, around acting and energy. And, it's just, I just got my official Dee Wallace up because there's a lot of others out there that aren't mine, really.
Right.
Okay.
And, I truly, I look back on Cujo and the Frighteners and all these things, and it really was, all of these things in my career have trained me so well to deal with energy and fear. And ultimately, that's everything my healing work is about. And I'm doing this great little movie right now called Fuzz Track City that's going to be made into webisodes and put on the web. So I get to play this great cougar who's having a lot of fun with younger guys. So